insane on the sidelines on Saturday or Sunday. That guy's your head coach the next 3 years. He's getting a contract extension. Okay. So I hope I've laid this out to you here. Tomorrow on the Zoom call, Stephen Jones, Jerry, and Todd Williams, the director of operations. I don't know if Charlotte will be there, but I know those three, and I don't know if Todd's asking questions. It'll be a Zoom call tomorrow afternoon with the offensive coordinator of the Eagles. All right. All that being said, we appreciate it. Thank you very much, Flex, and I appreciate the supers. All supers go to the top. Hit that like button. By the way, guys, give me a total where we are on the likes right now. Without further ado, our friend, the co-host of Birds 365, pre-post, halftime, post-post, is our friend, Big C, Zander Krause. How you doing, brother?
Big Sills, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
What'd you make of what I laid out here over the last hour and a half?
Good. Excellent show open. One of your recent points about Kellen Moore, I would get into that with you a little bit, with the Kellen Moore stuff and Nick Sirianni, but overall good. I think Kellen Moore is going to probably get the job, to be honest, in Dallas. It feels like that would be a good fit for him, and that's probably what will end up happening. But I do have several points about Kellen Moore, going to that job. What do you feel about the interview? Because, Eagle fans, they hate the idea of a guy interviewing in the middle of a playoff run.
I completely hate the process, but I understand the process because, the guys that are in the playoffs are going to get first whack at it, and you don't want to get – it squeezes you up to the draft, Zander. Look, I mean, if you don't have a process now, that means you don't get to talk to teams until after February. You only have 1 month to hire a coach before the April draft comes up.
No, I get it.
You know what I mean?
I would more push back on hate of it. And if you really dislike it that bad, then don't blame Kellen Moore or Nick Sirianni. I mean, Kellen Moore is look, guys. I mean, these organizations prove to you week in and week out, year in and year out, that they will scapegoat you, they will fire you, they will move on from you so fast. This is a dog-eat-dog world, and it's a dog-eat-dog league even more so than the world is. Kellen Moore is looking at an opportunity to be a head coach of a football team, and there's 32 of those jobs on planet Earth.
And he
By the way, I will add in the fact that this is not a knock on Jalen Hurts. But this style of play is much less conducive to Kellen keeping a job in the NFL for a long time versus if he goes to Dallas and gets bounced in the first round of the playoffs every year, but they have a number one offense in the NFL, Kellen's value will remain very high, okay? Don't blame Kellen Moore for taking an interview.
No.
I don't have it, and I'll say this. I have no issue with the organization set up because what's growing on me is the CEO head coach. And I believe, just like we are this year, does everybody feel like we have a chance to go to the Super Bowl this year, right? I would assume the majority of people
hate the CEO coach, though, but go ahead.
Okay, but just my point. Does everybody feel, do you feel like we have a chance to go to the Super Bowl this year? I'm not saying we're going, a chance.
Yes.
Okay, we're on a
strong chance. If you stay who you are, yes.
Okay, well, we're on a first-year coordinator right now.
Correct.
So the stability is great, but when you're a great football team and you're a great offense, losing coordinators is going to be part of the gig. Like I said, if you have an issue with this, that's fine. I'm open to that line of thinking because many people will say it's better to have stability with an offensive play call. That makes sense to me. But blame the organization. Don't blame any of the guys. And in fact, I don't think it's an issue because we're 15-3 with a new coordinator.
Hate the game, Zander.
Right. Don't hate the player. Exactly. Don't hate the player. Hate the game. What are you gonna you're gonna tell Kellen Moore don't take a job interview to be the head coach?
Not. Nor would Nick.
Yeah.
Nor would Nick say that.
Exactly. I'd never say that. So is the setup a little flawed? Yeah, but what's the solution for the NFL? There isn't one. There isn't a logical solution because the NFL is milking out the time between the start of the playoffs when other teams look for their coach and the Super Bowl. They want that to, in fact, if anything, it would get longer because the NFL is milking that as their money-making period of the year, which is obviously growing longer and longer every year, but they're not going to shorten that. So there's not a real solution because teams will never wait till after a Super Bowl to fire a coach. The draft's too soon, and you got to get it going on the next season. And you're always going to want playoff coaches are always going to be sought after because they're playoff coaches. So there's no real fix to this problem.
Here's the one thing that Kellen has also shown coaches this year that a lot of coaches can't show. He showed versatility in the fact that he went from a drop back system where he had it in Dallas, where he had the number one offense in Dallas with a drop back passer, not an RPO guy, to going to an RPO guy and creating a team that's now in the divisional round and won 15 ball games and one of the most dominant teams. And the play calling, again, has resulted in 15 wins. I mean, he took the roster that Howie had. And by the way, I'll say it again. Howie did not, and I agree with John McMullen 1,000%. This is not what they envisioned. Kellen made this happen with the skill set people that Howie had in that huddle, and he restructured it. The centerpiece is Barkley now. The centerpiece was supposed to be Hurts. Right. Well, he's now in the divisional round with 15 games. Some are going to go, I hate it because the team's not constructed correctly in how they've done it. The coordinator did one thing this year that the most important thing that, quite frankly, he's never done before in his coaching career. I don't think Kellen Moore's ever gotten to a divisional round. He's now a coordinator on a football.
Didn't they win one playoff game with Kellen Moore?
I thought they won a playoff game. I thought they maybe got. I think if they have,
I might be wrong. I thought that was the year they won the wild card.
I might be wrong too because I know they haven't been to a conference championship game in 30 years. So they may have won a playoff game with him, like Seattle or some shit. I think they made. So
he won a playoff game with Dallas in 2022 when they went 12-5 and lost. And then he also won a playoff game in Dallas in 2018 when he was the quarterback's coach, not the coordinator.
Okay.
So he's won and now with the Eagles win last week, he is 2-2 in the playoffs as an offensive coordinator.
With different styles.
And look, I said, I don't say this at all to knock our offense or Jalen Hurts. The style that Kellen Moore came from is a style that is coveted in the league more than being able to hand off from a coordinator perspective, from a coaching perspective. So Kellen, Kellen is thinking about the business of Kellen Moore. Kellen wants to be, he's 38 or whatever, however old he is, 35 or 37, whatever he is. He wants to be a coach for another 25 years. The best way to position himself is to get with an offense where he can have a number one passing game, and then he will create stock and value for himself that will last longer than handing the ball to Saquon Barkley. It's great. I'm fine with what we're doing right now in offense. I'm saying from the Kellen Moore perspective, though. Yeah. That's more valuable for him. So it wouldn't surprise me if he goes and if he does it, and it wouldn't bother me all that much because I don't think he's been like I give him credit for adapting to his talent, but I don't think he's the only guy in the world who could do that, if that makes sense.
And see, to me, I'm going to continue to say this. How many conversations are we going to have every year when people say, well, the quarterback up 2022, I mean, so 21, 23, and now 24. Well, Jesus criminy, man. That's 1 out of 3 years that the guy was sensational, and the rest of those years are average to below average. I mean, I don't know what else to say here. There's a bigger sample size on him now where it's him, and it's not the coordinators. I mean, the coordinator can only do so much. Dude, I'm not going to have you run a company if you're not capable of running it just to give it to you. I'm going to adapt because, like you said something important there just a couple minutes ago. Kellen Moore is in the business of Kellen Moore. He can't afford another fuck up like he had.
I agree.
Like he had in Los Angeles. He can't afford that if he wants a job opportunity.
Absolutely. No doubt.
This is about winning. You know what I mean? I mean, so I get what you're saying. I'm going to throw some names at you here. And by the way, let me go back one thing. So talking with Stephen Jones, we found out again what all in meant. I thought all in meant personnel in the offseason. They were going to retool the Cowboys. I found out that they were all in on Mike McCarthy. And it was Mike McCarthy's job to lose. And that Mike McCarthy politicianed and campaigned to get Kellen Moore out because, and again, I happen to agree with the Joneses on this. If I'm going to get fired, Zander, and you're going to fire me, you're not putting Harry with me. You know why? If the boat goes down, I'm putting the boat at the bottom of the Atlantic. So
I get that. I understand that. I understand that. I really do.
I'm not letting you drive the boat to the ground with me in it. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm either going to sink or swim with me. And that's how Mike positioned it. And I think Jerry went because I found out, again, the Moores, Kellen Moore and the Joneses have a great relationship. They love the kid. And that's why I think he's a top 3 candidate. I don't know so much about Robert Saleh being a gigantic candidate. I do think Dion is a guy that they would covet.
You know why I don't see it with Dion? I think Dion's going to get too many headlines, not just because he's Deion Sanders. And I know people think Jerry won't mind that, but right now, when you hear Dallas Cowboys, I mean, Jerry Jones is the headline. And I think
he's the franchise.
Yeah, he likes that. So that's why I think Dion won't. I don't think he'll end up going down the Dion route. In fact, I think that could have been a little bit of a publicity stunt actually by Jerry. You know him. I mean, he loves publicity stunts. So, yeah, I don't know. Could be a good job. I think Kellen fits in, right? Doesn't he? I mean, no, for that mold. If you think about what Jerry likes in a head coach, he doesn't want you to be the bit. How much do you hear about Mike McCarthy during the week? You don't hear much about Mike McCarthy during the week.
No, he wants you to listen. He wants you to listen to their input, like the same way that Kellen has to listen to the input of what the Eagles do. I found out something interesting too. The run game is almost 85% run by Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah, I've known that.
And so that means that's why when they say cooperative and these guys are collaborating together on these
I'll actually ask John about that tomorrow on the show.
Yeah, because they said that, I mean, they're collaborating on it. That's why it's constantly being brought up. I get that and I'm not saying Kellen doesn't call the plays. I'm not saying that. But these guys have a lot of input on how that run game, and I'm talking Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah.
How that run game is each and every single Sunday. I'm going to throw some names at you here. Here's some names that I've heard. Frank Wright, free agent. The organization just absolutely loves Frank, from the owner to the general manager, the organization itself, the analytics people. They know he uses analytics. That's something that's going to be a priority for the next guy. He's comfortable in the organization. Frank's making still some money with David Tepper's money with Carolina. What do you think of and Nick has a great relationship and a working history with him. He was his wide receiver coach in San Diego when he was the OC. There's a Phillip Rivers dynamic to that hurts. Watches a lot of game film on Phillip Rivers. What do you make of Frank?
Part of me feels like we should go with a little fresher blood, a little newer blood, maybe going down a road that you've already been. Sometimes that doesn't always work out. The other human element I would ask a question on, not saying it would be too bad, but would wonder about this would be, he used to work for Frank, Nick.
Yeah.
Does that normally work well if a guy, it becomes your boss, where Frank's now answering to Nick versus when Nick used to answer to Frank? I would wonder what that element would be like. And then I would wonder about the organization. I don't know if Howie or Jeffrey would want to walk back down that road. I know they didn't leave with on bad terms with Frank, but I don't.
And he recommended Nick.
Yeah. So maybe that's a better fit than I'm giving credit for. I don't know. Part of me wants a little bit fresher.
You might want to ask Frank this question. Frank, are you still in search of a head coaching job in the NFL again? Or are you comfortable with being a coordinator? And because
then you're going to get that stability.
Yes. And are you comfortable? Because then you could probably get it with Frank and Vic for the next couple of years and get that continuity that you're looking for.
Well, let me ask you this. Has Frank ever coached a dual threat quarterback?
No, he has not.
And you think that would be an issue?
I think he would have to adapt like Kellen did. And would he be willing to do that?
Which I think Kellen did a good job of, but I don't think if you asked Kellen Moore this is what he expected or wanted, he wouldn't say yes to that.
And I wouldn't think Hurts wants down the road.
I agree with that for sure.
Do you agree with me when I say this? Behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, Jalen's saying all the right things. But behind the scenes, come on, dude, don't you think he looks
I have one pushback on this. All right.
He looks at everything and goes like this. I see the rest of these guys all improving as quarterbacks, and their offenses are all improving and winning. Why can't I also improve?
Here's my one pushback on this point. I think A.J. Brown feels that way. I think Kellen Moore feels that way. I think Devontae Smith feels that way. I think Dallas Goedert feels that way. I think Nick Sirianni feels that way. When it comes to Jalen Hurts, I think he's smart enough to know where he would excel as a player and where he wouldn't. And I think he truly does only give a shit about winning. We sit here and we judge Jalen Hurts because that's what we're going to do. We're talk show. I mean, we're talk show guys. We talk about football all day. You judge players. That's what you do. You grade them. You analyze them. You talk about them. Jalen Hurts judges himself on one thing, all right? And that's winning and losing. And it's not passing. I'm not saying we're wrong for judging him for all the other stuff. But in his eyes, I don't know if Jalen Hurts truly cares about the other like what I'm telling you is I believe him. I believe him more than I believe A.J. Brown when he says he doesn't care or Kellen Moore when he says it. Like, I think Kellen Moore is like, I want this offense to be better. I think Jalen Hurts goes, did we win the fucking football game? If we didn't win and I needed to pass better, okay, then I'm ready to pass better. But as long as we won the game, I'm good. I think that's my perspective on Jalen Hurts. I normally have a decent gauge for people like that. I think Jalen Hurts comes off pretty genuine. And when he's speaking specifically about that, and like I said, I think he's also smart enough to know, Sills. Like, he's not built to be a 45 throw guy. I think he knows that. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
If you're an NFL player or a high-level athlete, you have an ego. I don't care what that ego and how that ego's shaped and to what level or to what extent. You have an ego on how you want to be looked at in the league. All you're hearing is people saying he's the worst passer in the postseason. Now, does that bug him? Probably not. But when you hear it over and over again, and you hear it even in the press conferences that the Philly media asked him about the offensive passing game,
right? He's
constantly questioned. If you're constantly questioned on something, you're being questioned on your ability. I agree with you. I think he does care about winning because he was raised in a championship organization at Alabama.
And he's been, and to be fair, it goes back further than pros. Remember, I watched this guy get benched, sit, and ride out a whole year.
I know.
Find me one college football player today that starts on a team, on a D1 Power 5 football team that would get benched. Wait, that would get benched and then stick with you the whole year.
No way.
Sorry, but that doesn't exist. I'm not knocking Jalen Hurts for transferring to Oklahoma after another year of riding it out. By the way, where he got his signature win in the SEC title game. So my point in saying that is I truly believe that Jalen at his core is a guy that's about wins and losses. He's not a guy that's about, all the other bullshit. He understands that it's going to be a talking point, but I don't think he cares that much.
You're talking to a guy who transferred, so I get it. I understand. Right. I completely get that. I threw these two names at you here because I think the coaching tree in Los Angeles is spectacular with the amount of head football coaches that are in the NFL right now. The guy in Green Bay, the guy in Miami, the guy up in Minnesota. I got Dave Ragnon, the quarterback coach in Los Angeles, who's worked with Sean McVay, and the passing coordinator, Nick Caley, who is in that coaching tree. I got to tell you, those guys are going to be head offensive coaches, maybe head coaches one day. And those guys are in a system. They've worked with Jared Goff. They've worked with Matthew Stafford. They've been to Super Bowls. They've been and won division titles. And these guys have been on that coaching staff with Sean McVay for the last couple of years of success. In the first 5 years of Sean McVay's career, it's now 8 years. The first 5 years, you want to hear this? He's been to 2 Super Bowls in his first 5 years. He's won 1, and he won 3 division titles with that coaching staff. I mean, and what's the one thing you want improved with Hurts? Isn't it the passing game? If Jeff Stoutland's handling the run game, don't you want to bring in a guy who's going to elevate the passing game and a guy who's worked with a savant like Sean McVay? That would be somebody that I would be interested in, because all those guys have gone on, Zander, with great success in the NFL as head coaches.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the goal, ultimately. They're not going to want to stay stagnant. So it's great the way they're winning right now. But I do think if you got into an offseason picture, they're not going to come in this and saying, okay, we want to do the same exact thing. They would want to improve the passing game. They know they got great pass catchers. They know that their offense could be even more potent than it was with the passing game. So there's no doubt about that. And I think that would be a good move to try and get somebody that could improve that. But isn't that kind of what they tried to do with Kellen?
Yes.
And it didn't really work. So, I'm also cool with the philosophy of like, I love that you guys want to be a smash mouth football team. Let's go get another running back. Let's be more smash mouth than we've ever been before. And then let's gradually, keep Jalen Hurts where he's at or gradually build it. You don't need to come out and start throwing ever. Take the same philosophy. Adopt a little bit of play. I think they should be using more play action. Like, I don't get how you have a 2,000-yard running back and you're not consistently going to play action. Like, you're telling me that a professional quarterback can't line up under center to that extent that you can't run a play action pass? Like, they don't do it. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not buying that Jalen Hurts can't line up under center and do a play action pass.
I'm going to tell you why. This is his first year setting protections. It's taking its time. I said that at the beginning of the freaking year this year to you guys, that setting protections for the first time in his quarterbacking career is going to be a process.
Yeah.
And it's taken its process. By the way, it's affected the numbers. And 2 things have affected the passing numbers this year: the injuries and Hurts having a new role. That's setting protections, figuring out where the heat's coming from. That's taken its time here, man. And look, his progression of this, he's still a high percentage guy. His rating is good, but the numbers aren't where they are for 2 reasons. And it's not the run game. It's the pass protections on figuring out where the pressure's coming from that is causing him to sit in the pocket and still take a ton of sacks. He looks at it this way. Like you said the other day, he's going to take the sacks instead of the turnovers. He would rather take a 15-yard sack than throw the ball up and lose field position and lose a possession.
Right.
That's how they're playing.
Well, and to be fair, we are 8-0 when he's got no turnovers.
And when they've dumped from 31 attempts, you went on a 10-game win streak.
Yeah, right. No, that's a part of it too. But I'm saying, like, specifically the numbers, Jalen knows. When I don't turn the football over, we're 8-0 this year. So I'm shooting 100% from the field if I don't turn the ball over. Until I'm proven otherwise, I can ride that out. And I think he definitely has that mindset a little bit. But, I don't know. By the way, let me just real quick ask you, have your thoughts on this playoff game changed at all this weekend?
No. I said it again. Stafford and the Rams have to overachieve, and the Eagles have to underachieve for them to win.
All right, but let me just play. All right, I'm going to do this, and
I think that Dean injury. I think that Dean injury kind of. It's going to be interesting how Stafford attacks that. Right. So I mean, that's probably one dynamic in there.
Yeah. All right. So I've been saying all week, I think the Eagles could blow this team out. I'm still pretty confident they're going to do that because of the trenches and because of our defense and what I think they're going to be able to do at home in 20-degree weather in Philly. Matthew Stafford has not traditionally been good in the cold, but I'll say this. All right. Just to play the other side, because we have an echo chamber on the channel, which we normally never have. All right. Normally John and Sills and myself are on different sides. Right now, John thinks the Eagles are going to win big. I think the Eagles are going to win big, and Silly thinks the Eagles are going to win. All right? Let me play the devil's advocate for a second. And to your credit, you've played this because you've talked about how good McVay is. Who's the only team in the NFC that has a Super Bowl winning coach and a Super Bowl winning quarterback? It's the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford, since he's gotten to LA, is 5-1 in the postseason with ridiculous numbers. I think like 18 picks, 3 interceptions.
It's insane.
I think 115 passer, somewhere in there. All right. He's playing lights out. Their defense is putting up better numbers this year than they did last year in every metric. Okay. This team is after starting out slow, has a similar record to the Eagles, actually, not in the last 14 games. They're like 10-2 or whatever. I think the Eagles are like 10-1, or whatever it is. So all I'm putting out there is that I know we're taking them lightly, or we believe we can kill them, but don't go to sleep on this team if you're the team. You got Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. These are dudes who don't give a shit. They're not going to blink, and they're going to come in here thinking that they can beat you and be confident in the way they do it, and they have reason to believe that. Like you just said, how many times have you read off Sean McVay's resume this week? It matters. Getting in the coaching in the postseason matters. Quarterback play in the postseason matters. They got the guy. They got the proven guys. Actually, you could, if you're the Rams and you're coming into this, if you're Sean McVay, if you're Matthew Stafford, aren't you like, yeah, fuck you got to beat me. I'm the Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm the Super Bowl winning coach. I don't give a fuck about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. Now I'm just saying that for the sake of the talking point, but it wouldn't surprise me if they had that mentality. No,
I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it. I want to
not buying them as a team.
I'm not buying any of what you just said. I just think the Eagles are just more dominant than them. And you could talk a big talk and you can have a fucking game. And I know you're playing the other side of this.
Right. I feel the same way as you.
Dude, I do. I just think, get this, Mike Tyson says, everyone's got a fucking plan until you get popped in the head.
Exactly.
And I just think the Eagles pop you in the face and your shit goes to shit. I mean, guess what happened in the last game? Dude, they drove the football field. They drove the ball right down the field. What happened in the next 58 minutes of that game? They put 37 points up and 300 yards rushing on you and ran you off the field. I'm not buying it. You're going to have to – hey, I tell you about Hurts all the time that I'm not buying it. The passing and all this. You're going to have to prove to me that you can beat that bully up.
Yeah.
Okay? You're going to have to – Zander, has any team this year beat the Eagle O lineup?
No, and no team will. The team that will have the biggest.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, will be Detroit. Detroit's most suited to have the slugfest.
That's right.
But even then, they're missing some bodies on that defensive line.
I still think they'll beat that front of the Lions up.
Yeah, I do.
But I happen to think that Lions O line is going to be more formidable than you think against the Eagle front seven too. Right. They've got 2-3 Pro Bowlers on that O-line too. They got a good football team there, man. That's a good looking. The O-line, you could flip a coin and go, who do you want? Okay, you want the Eagles? I'll take the Lions. Lions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That Lions O-line's legit. Is real freaking legit. Frank Ragnow at center. I mean, Penei Sewell. They got some real dogs on that offense.
Even the other tackle's good too.
Really good. Yep. I'm blanking on his name right
now. Let me get to some of these names here again. But I also want to throw this out. I'll tell you one thing that I think Kellen Moore has done. And talking to Steven today, they think he's grown. And here's what I mean by grown. He is a pass-happy guy. And for him to see that Barkley and how fast he adapted to that, and I agree with you, I don't think he enjoys calling the plays that he has in Philly. But it's resulted in 15 wins, and he's adapted to it. And what he's doing now is playing musical chairs. And he really has. He's grown. There's more of an emphasis on running the football now. And these were things that the Cowboys were not doing when he was in Dallas. I mean, Zeke's skill set was going like this. It was coming down from that 1 year when he got that contract. Every year that Kellen had him, he was diminishing skills. This is what the Eagles have done the last 3 years. They've had 3 straight Pro Bowlers, dude.
Yeah.
They've had Miles Sanders, they've had DeAndre Swift, and now they've got a kid who's an MVP candidate.
Yep.
The one thing the Eagles have been consistent on is what? There's no drop-off, really.
You're so right.
It's escalated at that running back position.
And that's why, and what you just said.
The Cowboys have gone down. Every time he was there, they were going down. Because you know what the Cowboys do? Zander, the Cowboys get a guy. They love him. They want to make him a brand. They want to brand him a Dallas Cowboy instead of doing what's best for the team. Howie looks at it like this. It's our O-line, Miles. It ain't you. Boom. Swift. It ain't you. Even though they wanted him, let's go get Sanders. I personally think if you would have got Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, or Saquon, I think you'd have the same result. I think those three guys, that stat that they said that 2.5 yards past the line of scrimmage, they're not getting touched. If you get Josh Jacobs or you give Derrick Henry 3 yards before somebody touches you, I don't give a fuck who you are. If you're a high-quality back like those three guys, they're getting $2,000. Henry got $2,000 almost anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have the skill of the running back has definitely helped, though.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm not saying the skill set.
Yeah, but what you're saying is 100% right, and it's why we're gonna beat the shit out of the Rams this week because they're not gonna be able to stop that offensive line. I'm sorry, there's just nothing they can do.
I don't buy it.
You know, the only way it could be a game though, Sil, is
Stafford.
Let me just play out a scenario for you. Let me just play out a scenario for you where the offensive line does destroy them, but the Rams stay in the football game. All right, Rams take the ball first or lose the toss. Eagles defer, give it to the Rams first. All right. Rams go down and score. All right, 7-0 Birds. I'm not saying we can't come back and tie it, can't run right down the field, right down their throat and tie the football game. But you already put yourself in a position of power as an offense to get on the board on that first drive if you're the Rams. All right. It allows you to play like you want to play. Matthew Stafford, Hall of Fame level quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback, goes 7 of 10 on third downs. Okay. They're going to move drives enough to be able to get points on the board and get to that 20-plus point mark where you could be in a one-score game. And when you get into a one-score game in the playoffs, you know how playoff football goes. One-score games in the postseason, it's anybody's game. Go out there and win it. That's where quarterbacks take over. That's where winning from the pocket is so highly coveted and desired. So that would be the one scenario I could see is if the Rams can start strong and automatically make it a second half game. Like if they come out and don't score and the Eagles are up 14-0 by midway through the second quarter, then they're going to be playing catch up all game. That's when I love the Eagles because they can milk the clock and run the football.
They need a running game, the Rams. If they don't get a running game going,
they got a pretty good running game.
Okay, that's all out if they don't get a running game.
Kyren Williams is a pretty good running back. You've been talking about him.
And
he's also a touchdown machine. How many touchdowns does he have this year?
And they've improved this year in their middle of their offensive line. They've improved. Okay.
14 touchdowns for Kyren Williams. He got more touchdowns than Saquon.
I get it. He's had a really good year, and I think he's got almost 40 catches, 2 out of the backfield.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they utilize him in the backfield, too. So I think that's going to be a watch to keep an eye on because the weather is going to dictate who can run the ball the best. You know why I don't think the Rams have a shot at this thing? What Frank said what Mark Trestman said yesterday. The Eagles just are more set up for winter football than that Dome team is set up. I mean, look, I think the Rams have a shot because of the quarterback and the coach. I do. And the receivers are good. Now, I don't know what Puka's doing because I know he twisted his ankle, but I mean.
Oh, yeah. I saw him on the McAfee show yesterday.
Okay. Hey, do you think this is going to be a distraction with Moore?
I'll say yes, but I'll also add to the answer that it's also a distraction for maybe the Lions favorite in the NFC. I mean, all I hear right now coming out of the Lions Center, and I'm not obviously entrenched in Detroit media, but I'm up to date on NFL news and stuff that comes out. I heard about Ben Johnson talking about a head coaching job and how great he thought Aaron Glenn was going to be as a head coach. I don't know about you, but Aaron Glenn's not a head coach right now. Ben Johnson's not a head coach right now. And then I heard Aaron Glenn answer a question about him becoming a head coach and why he knows so much about offense and shouldn't be mistaken as just a defensive guy. And it's all great. I actually think both of those guys are going to be great head coaches. I think Aaron Glenn has a better chance to be a great head coach than Ben Johnson. Actually, I think Aaron Glenn has head coach traits, but that's a lot of talk about everything but the freaking playoff game in front of him. Am I wrong?
No.
So I think it could be a distraction for the Birds, but I think it could be a distraction for everybody. So this is where if it applies to multiple teams, then shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear an excuse. Go out there and play. Jalen, go out there. If Kellen Moore doesn't show up, somebody's got to do it. I'm not using it as an excuse. No way.
Hey, guys, do me a favor. All super chats, you guys keep rifling them off. Don't forget, we're going to get our friend Mark Holmes from the Mark Holmes Network. We'll get his takes on this because he's talking all about this stuff going on with the new coach.
Yeah. Did you see what I did this morning with super chats?
What's that?
Did you see what I did this morning with the people on the channel did?
No, what'd they do?
So I did a promotional, I guess you could call it, this morning for super chats, and every dollar I got in super chats would be used to buy more Eagles merch to give away. Because I'm out of stuff in my big tub I had. I'm out of stuff, so the people want me to get more stuff. So yeah, we did $550 of super chats.
Fantastic, guys.
So we're going to be buying more Eagle merch to give away.
Fantastic here.
Yeah.
All right, couple more names. I won't go through them all here. I threw T. Martin out. He is the current quarterback coach for the Baltimore Ravens, and he's been working with Todd Monken the last couple of years. He's a former coordinator in college and in the pro level. He's had great success as a player and also as he won a national championship at Tennessee. So he knows the dual threat system and he knows the dual threat quarterback. Here's a guy that marries up with what your skill set is with Baltimore. That's what I want my passing attack to look like. And that's what he's been working with Todd Monken. Remember, you can't hire Todd Monken to be the offensive coordinator because you can't make lateral moves. So you have to look down the food train and the food tree a little bit here for you to be able to hire these guys. Yeah. And that's somebody to me that if you're the Eagles, isn't that the type of skill set that somebody's been working with that you would want to enhance? I mean, you're talking about a guy who could win 2 MVP awards in a row.
Right.
I mean, he's worked with a ton of people and he's worked with great coaches. And now he's working with John Harbaugh and he's working with Monken there. How about somebody like T. Martin because of the skill set?
I like the skill set a lot. The one thing I'd wonder is the Eagles have hired 3 coordinators since Nick Sirianni's been here on offense. It's been Kellen Moore, Shane Steichen, and Brian Johnson. The only one of those guys who came in here that having never been an offensive coordinator was Brian Johnson. Now, I know that was a hire from within, but it didn't work out. And Shane Steichen was an offensive coordinator with the Chargers, I believe, before the Eagles. Is that who it was? Yeah, Chargers.
Chargers.
Huh? Yeah, the Chargers before the Eagles. That's right.
I think he worked with Anthony Lynn, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think you're right. I think Anthony Lynn was the coach, and he was the coordinator there. So he was the offensive coordinator there. And then Kellen Moore obviously has a lot of experience as an offensive coordinator. So is there a guy out there that might be getting fired or didn't work out or has experience as an OC? I feel like the Eagles might go down that road simply because I thought Brian Johnson was scapegoated, but they used it as a scapegoat, and they're going to stick with the story that he wasn't ready yet to be an offensive coordinator. I feel like they might go a little bit more experienced than that.
I'll tell you what, he's done a hell of a job with Jaden Daniels and with Cliff Kingsbury in D.C.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because, and Jaden Daniels even gave him a ton of credit for how he's helped.
I'm with Amber. Dude, give me John Gruden at OC.
You know what, man? I have Gruden out. I have Gruden's name here, but I mean,
I like a offensive mind like that, though. Like I don't know. Maybe it's just the brash nature of him a little bit. I know he's got some baggage. I'm not condoning what he said or anything like that. I'm just talking about straight football. This guy is. I have you ever seen his YouTube channel, bro?
Yeah,
dude, it's so good. It is so good. His YouTube channel, but
I was involved. Let me give you a small Gruden story. I was involved in the hiring process with John Gruden in Oakland when he got the Oakland Raider job. And I'll tell you how I was. Al Davis called me in, and we were sitting in the back of the auditorium there with the Raider complex. And I don't know why, but Al and I became very, very, very – Amy Trask, you can hear her say it, that I went everywhere with him. I used to go to Vegas with him. We'd go out to dinner with him. We'd fly around looking at some college kids in the local area, like Southern Cal. He just really liked me a lot, wanted me to work with Ken Herrick in the personnel department. He hired me to be a broadcaster on his first broadcasting team in Oakland. I loved Al. So he goes, why don't you come over? And so I'm sitting in the back. He goes, don't say anything because he's going to be sitting in the front. So I was sitting in the front. And guess what? John Gruden was the offensive coordinator of the Eagles at the time. So he comes in, and Gruden gets up at the board. And he gave him one play. And John Gruden had about 5 boards in front of him. He starts drawing up all these plays and all of these routes and all of this, why this route and 2 deep safety and this and that. And he's just drawing up these plays. And like you're watching a guy at NASA just formulating on how to get to the moon. And he's just drawing this shit. I'm sitting back there going, fuck, I could never follow along as a quarterback this. It's very complex.
It might be too complex.
He's just writing this up. The only thing that I ever had a problem with John, listen to this, and I'm just going to make this up. Double Y 45, triple seam 72, 3 with a hitch and a wheel route 49. And you've got to know all this. And then he'll sit there and kill you if you don't know any of that. And it's a really complex passing attack on how he sees that. You really, and I'm not saying Jalen's not smart. That's anybody. I'm just saying that's why, name me a quarterback that he's ever had that was a young quarterback.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Name me one.
That's why I like
one.
That's why he likes the Derek Carr types, because they're older veteran passing guys.
Brad Johnson's, guys like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and some of that has to do with like what Jay Gruden, what his brother obviously explained the other day on the show, where you get a dual threat quarterback, their skill set's not only different, but their entire experience and growth as a young prospect and player is different, because when you're a pocket passer and you want to succeed, you better know everything about pocket passing, because you don't have an escape route. Like, you better know how to read every single defense. If you're a dual threat, that develops differently, because especially when you're younger and you're an NFL level player and you're coming up through the ranks, you're the best player on every field you've been on, especially if you're a starting quarterback. You're the best player in every field you've been on. So that develops at a different rate, a different pace. And you might be right about that with Gruden.
I'll give you 2 more. What about Josh McDaniels? 6 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
Complete. Now look, he's never dealt.
Not my favorite guy, but
you see,
I
think
argue the resume.
I think you're blinded by the fact because he sucked as a head coach.
I'm a little bit. I'm going to be honest with you, this might just be a big Z thing. All right. He's just not my favorite. Look, you can't argue. You can't argue the freaking resume. Six rings, dude. You can't argue it. There's just something about him.
All with Brady.
Huh?
All with Brady.
All with Brady. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for him?
I don't know. I'm asking a question. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's probably going to be hired with Vrabel in New England anyway.
You think so?
I do.
They're going to bring him back?
Yes, I do. I talked to Alonzo Highsmith. Alonzo Highsmith is he's now head of
Jack Straw. That's it. Jack Straw says he's punchable. He is. Also, I don't agree with this, Underdog. I mean, I like Underdog, but I don't agree with this. He says, how are you a dual threat if nobody's threatened by the thought of you throwing the football? That's just not true. You can't leave A.J. Brown one-on-one. The Eagles have taken advantage of it several times this year. He's not proficient at it. It doesn't excel at it, but he can do it.
Yeah.
I mean.
You know what? One thing he does that makes you crazy if you're a coordinator? The one thing for me that Jalen Hurts does that would drive me crazy is that I would have to always remind my defensive ends on the backside, don't scrape tight down the line of scrimmage, get deep as the ball, because that fucker's going to run backside on you, man, and you're not going to have the edge set, and he's going to get out in the open perimeter as an open field runner, and he's going to pick up 15 yards, and I'm going to fucking kill you if you do that. That would drive me crazy. You have to keep your integrity when Hurts is out there, because back plays, that's one of the things, and that's one of the things that they kind of have started stopping the Eagles on, is that counter play that he runs, where he's not getting a ton of yards off that backside any longer, like he did when he did in 22. So Jalen keeps you honest, man, in your techniques. See, when I got a drop back guy, bro, I can kind of freelance a bit. But when I have a dual threat guy like that, I have to keep my techniques and my integrity.
Right.
Drives me crazy because that means I'm going to be slow playing to the ball on the backside. I mean, don't tell me he doesn't have an impact when it comes to the run. He has a massive impact in the run game because he's got to. He keeps you completely honest here. All right, my last one here. Josh McCown, Minnesota.
I like it.
Okay, look what he did with Darnold this year.
He maybe put lipstick on a pig there and did a pretty damn good job, but he ultimately couldn't save it when the lights got too bright for the moment.
I think it was the talent. I think it was the talent under center.
I think maybe this might be one of my favorite ones that you've said. Josh McCown. Now, I don't know what kind of experience he has in terms of play calling and things of that nature and how good that would work. Does he do that now? No, right? Obviously,
no, Kevin O'Connell does.
Yeah, so
he's a former quarterback too.
Former quarterback. I think he would understand Jalen. I think he would be able to resonate, talk with him, and understand him. I like that. The only thing I think the team wouldn't like would be he's never called plays. So that's the difference. Remember, I said earlier in this segment, well, we're 15-3 with the first year coordinator in Philly. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but that coordinator has called plays for 5 years prior to Philadelphia. Okay, Shane Steichen called plays for a year and a half prior to Philadelphia, and it took him a year to figure out this offense. So if they're going to go with a new coordinator, which I don't know, we may or may not happen.
If they keep winning, it will happen.
You think?
He'll either get the New Orleans job, or he'll get to Chicago, or he'll get, because, hey, Kellen Moore with Caleb Williams, that makes sense to me.
It feels like there's not that many good candidates this year. Like, I'd want one of the Lions guys if I was picking.
You know what? That Lions thing, if Ben Johnson, and if Ben Johnson gets that job, and I heard John talking about these, he can't take that Lions offense with him. Well, I mean, when you're going to get a job, traditionally the roster is not very good. I'll tell you where I would go if I were Ben Johnson. And I know this is a gamble for him.
Yeah, I
Jacksonville job with all that offense they have down there. Plus, they have 10 picks. They have 10 picks.
I thought you were going to go Chicago because they have a lot of offense there too.
I don't like the kid Caleb Williams.
I'm with you. Everybody seems to be glazing over him after year one. I don't think it's great.
No way.
Underdog, you might be right, brother. I'm not disputing what you're saying. I do think he has some level of ability in the pass game, but that's interesting, Sills. That's interesting there.
It's just a culture there that bugs me a little bit. And the Raider, now here's something about the Raider job. Brady's making the calls now. Brady's making all football decisions now for the Raiders.
He's going to want Ben Johnson. It wouldn't surprise me if he wants Ben Johnson.
Yeah, he gets to recruit him this weekend on Saturday.
Yeah, I know. You were crying like a little girl.
Game and he gets
you were crying like a little girl about it. I commented in I put in the private chat. You never read it. I'm like, hey, old man, when you win 7 rings in the NFL, you can do whatever the fuck you want. It's going to take a lot more than talking to Benny Ben on the sidelines for somebody to step in and intervene on that, man.
Can you imagine that guy got beat by a damn jiu-jitsu dude that works at a gym from 6 to 7 at night? Guy's got 7 rings.
You know what?
And a guy who works at Gold's Gym beat him out.
All right, let me say something. All right, it's gonna be slightly controversial here. Tom Brady, I love it. Unbelievable NFL player, the greatest of all time. What man would ever let his wife go into a jiu-jitsu gym and roll around half naked with a male trainer rolling over all day? I am sorry. If you're a man and you do that, then I don't want to hear nothing about nothing. All right?
That's right.
That's on you, my guy. That is crazy.
That's right.
That is crazy.
I'm coming home. If I smelled Kim and I smell Famunda juice on her, I'm going to be going like this. I'm going to be going, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
What about I smell musk. What's that musk?
Do that shit. I mean, come on, man. Come on. Tom, you letting your wife, your beautiful wife, the mother of your children, roll around with something, and by the way, in a physical nature. I mean, come on, man. That just defies everything that science is with all that type of crap. Come on, Tom. Come on, Tom.
Hey, I would appreciate it more if you're rolling around with another chick. But another
Yeah,
chick,
it's a little bit easier to handle that, right? I mean,
hey,
shit.
it was a chick. All right, okay. Hey, look, I can swing that way if you want to go there. I'm good. All right.
Yeah.
Hey,
Is
let's
she
get to the
remarrying
super.
that? She's not remarrying that dude, is she?
Yeah, no, she's got a little bump there too now, man. And Brady's looking at that going, wow, that worked quick. Hey, so wait a minute. She's pregnant now. And after week 1, when they're divorced, she's knocked up. Come on, Jackson. When you were doing that triple sow cow and he was showing her that move, you know what happened, man.
Come on, Tom. Tom's got to get that alpha back. Come on, Tom. Yeah. Get that alpha back, Tom.
Dude, he lost his man card a little bit with me there on that. Yeah, let's get these supers, Zander.
All right. So, yeah, simp. Your Sills is the simp. That's right. All right, here we go. Steven, we need an RPO guy. Trade Nick for Steichen. I'm actually with Sileo on this. He gets quarterback killed. I'm not good with it. I don't want it.
Every quarterback he's worked in that RPO has been banged. Look at Anthony. Not Anthony Rich. You and me were right about Anthony Richardson. I'm sorry, but 51% completion percentage at Florida. You thought that was going to improve in the pros. It hasn't. But Steichen's got that guy killed every play. I think Shane gets his quarterbacks banged up. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah, come on. Better call Maul. I like the name. Rams stacked the box and their linebackers and safeties cover like the Packers did. Could be trouble for our birds. Correct me if I'm wrong. Love the show. Love you too, bro. Thanks, man.
I don't buy it. I don't. Hey,
you're like me yesterday. You're really not in on this Rams team. Like you don't see it at all. You will be genuinely surprised if they win the game, the Rams.
Yes. Dude, the quarterback and the coach, give him a puncher's chance. And I said it. I'll say it again, and nothing will change. I think the Rams have to overachieve and the Eagles have to underachieve and flop around for at least 2 quarters for them to have a 4th quarter game. Rams have to do everything in their power. They got to play with the lead. They got to get into the 4th. And if you do that, anybody can win that ball game. And maybe it does come down to special teams. I don't know. I want to see how they're going to hold. Dude, 317 yards in a football game on the ground, and you got beat up like that, you're going to have to show me that you're going to man up for something like that.
Yeah.
And Zander, if you put up 37 points and you ran the ball for 100 yards, I would say the Rams have a tremendous chance. 300 yards rushing? I'm sorry. I'm not buying it, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. Good point. No Limit. What's up, No Limit? I never knew the Lions got 70 mil in cap space. They don't have 70 mil.
They got a ton of money. I'll tell you who else does. The Washington Commanders have a shitload, like 70 million themselves.
I think the Commanders have the most.
And they got 7 picks coming up. They got a ton of money, man. Remember something about that Detroit team, Zander?
Who's got the most cap space?
Hey, Zander,
New England has the most cap space. Vegas and Washington has 96 million.
Yep, I knew it was about 100
Detroit
million.
has 70 million. That is, Detroit.
And you know why? Look at how many guys are on first-year deals.
Right. Minnesota has 77 million.
Right.
How much do the Eagles have?
I think they're
not too bad.
20?
19th. They got 30 million.
Yeah. Okay.
And that cap number is going to go up.
18%.
Yeah.
Maybe more because of gambling. Maybe more. It might hit 265, 270.
The Underdog actually asked a good question here. He says, Dan and Zander, if some team cracks a code on limiting Barkley to 53 yards, what happens?
Then you're in a game.
I think we're in a. I think we lose.
If you hold Barkley to 60 yards rushing or less.
Yeah, but has that happened? Like, no. Bro, no. You're banking on seeing something we've never fucking seen. Nobody's been able to stop our offensive line yet. I'm supposed to believe the fucking.
Hey, Zander, tell the truth. Last week, I think the guy had 130 yards. It felt like he had 14 yards. And I'm like, he had 135 yards rushing. I'm like looking at him like Emmett now. This guy had 20 some odd carries on 135 yards rushing. It didn't seem like he didn't really it was, you're like, I don't know. And then you went, whoa,
right.
135 looks common now for him.
No doubt. All right, here we go. Another super chat. Philly Don checks in. What's up, Philly Don? Philly Don won our Legends giveaway this morning. So congrats on your jersey, brother.
Congrats, dog. Let's go, man.
He says, why can't they at least let an OC be able to work with their quarterback during the offseason, especially new ones? Do they not allow that?
Yeah, they allow that. What are you talking? That's why they have OTAs and that's why they have mini camps to work with that. I mean, they did that all this past offseason. Remember something, though? Don't you guys remember, Philly Don? What was the biggest complaint in the offseason? Hurts not liking the system. Hurts had to be sold on it. He didn't like it. And what didn't you know? Do you agree now, Zander? He had a precursor to knowing what this offense was going to look like when it came to being the preseason. Remember when he said, it's brand new. I don't like it. Well, he was right in the end. This is brand new. Right?
Yeah, it is. No doubt. All right, a couple more here, and then we'll get to Mark Holmes. One more. G Fish, just put Frank in for stability. Done deal.
I don't know if it's easy like that.
I do think you'd get the Vic Fangio feel with Frank, where his head coaching days are probably past him. You know, you might get that a little bit
more continuity.
I think it's an interesting dynamic though, because Nick used to work for Frank. Now you're going to have Frank come back and work for Nick. I don't know.
That works, but that goes a lot. That happens a lot because these head coaches and
it's not a forever gig.
It's interchangeable right now. Well, guess what? Yesterday we had that dynamic. Jim Harbaugh worked for Mark Trestman as a quarterback coach, and now Mark works for Jim Harbaugh as an assistant coach in Los Angeles with the Chargers. That happens a lot more than you think.
So BMO corrects me, which I appreciate. Cleveland held Saquon to 47, and he had 2 other games under 67. Okay. What was the record in those games? Well, there you go. There's the answer to Underdog's question. I mean, Underdog asked what would happen.
If you rush for 60 yards, you're still gaining $1,000. See, to me, when you're holding somebody to 47, that's holding them down. Okay, that's holding them down. But when you do 70 yards rushing, you're still about 1,100 yards rusher for that season. Remember, it's not like most people are looking at a 100-yard game, guys. Well, if you're doing 100 yards, you're talking about a 1,900-yard rusher.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to happen here, too.
Philly Don just followed up real quick. I meant before all camps when they're not allowed to have any contact. I don't
know what the CBA says about that because it's very restrictive in what you can do with non-football when you're not together. I know they all get together. Brady used to get together all the time too. We're going to get to Mark Holmes here in a minute.
Yeah. Anyway, we try and steal Lincoln Riley if Kellen.
Please
stop
that. Lincoln Riley.
He's making so much money. Yeah. No,
I'm not interested in that at all.
Mikey shreds. Nick's works for Howie. So would Frank. Come on. Wow.
Frank loves the Eagles. He does.
Yeah. All right, brother. I'll let you run, man. Enjoy this segment. Looking forward to hearing from Mark Holmes and seeing what he's thinking about their coaching search, man. They might be coming for Kellen. We're coming for Dion.
Well, I'm gonna lay it out before we bring Mark up here. So Zander, great stuff, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sills. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody in the chat.
All right, hit the like button. I want to before I bring Mark up, I'm gonna set it up here for all of his viewers now that are coming in here. So I had a conversation this morning with Stephen Jones. I want to make it clear. Tomorrow, Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, and Todd Williams, the director of operations of the Cowboys, will have a Zoom conference call with Kellen Moore. It'll be tomorrow afternoon. I don't know if Charlotte is going to be involved in this, and I don't know if Jerry Jones Jr. is going to be involved, and I don't believe Todd's going to be talking very much. But here's my conversation. I asked him about Kellen Moore's time in Dallas and how that whole exit happened. Well, Mark is going to get he'll now get what we've been talking about for an hour and a half. I now know what all in meant. It had nothing to do with personnel. It had everything to do with Mike McCarthy getting his full shot at being a play caller as the Dallas Cowboys. That's what he meant by all in. He politicianed, and he went to Jerry and said, if I'm going to go down, I want to at least go down being the play caller of my team. So he politicked to be that guy. Now, Jerry and Steven they love Kellen. And what I was told was that, look what Kellen did this year. He adapted. They knew the quarterback doesn't have the same skill set of a lot of passers do. And what did they do? They ran the football. And he took the offensive skill set people and he adapted more so than any time in Dallas that he ever adapted. And to the point of this, you got to remember, Howie Roseman got lucky this year, Mark Holmes, before I bring you on. He got lucky. And I'll tell you why. He did not build this team in the image of its true self right now. Both wide receivers are 35 and 25 million. The quarterback's 50, and the tight end is 15. You don't do that to pay the least star-studded player in the huddle $9 million and make him the centerpiece. Okay? Moore took that. And you know what he did at the bye? Jalen had 38 attempts in that Green Bay game. After that, they never had more than 31 attempts, and they went on a 10-game win streak. And you got to remember something. Last year, that same Packer team beat the doorknobs off the Cowboys. And they had an 11-point win this past weekend. Now, I think if he continues to win, he'll be an even stronger candidate to be the head football coach. And here's the most important thing on why Moore could fit in Dallas. He listens. Okay? He listens like he listens in Philadelphia. You got to remember something here.